On Trendz today, ASU declares 2 weeks warning strike nationwide. President Tinubu pardons Miriam Sanda sentenced to death for killing her husband. Nigerian Army personnel commit suicide after killing wife inside Wawa Military Barracks. And FCT police arrest 4 suspects in one-chance robbery, rescue 2 victims. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Trendz with LJ, where we analyze major stories shaping leadership, justice, and economic growth across Nigeria and Africa. I am your host, Omoyeni Ujeifu. Today's episode highlights pressing issues in Nigeria's education system, justice sector, and national security. Now, don't forget, you can also be a part of the conversation by following us on all our social media platforms at LJ Nigeria. Joining me is a panel whom I shall be introducing after the break. Stay tuned.
Camera rolling. Light set. Sound check. And action.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's program.
A program where we get to talk about the daily
lawyers
affairs
dissect legal issues with intent to educate.
This is the perfect space to create professional quality videos, recording news, podcasts, and all media content. With top-of-the-line cameras, studio lighting, soundproof spaces, we provide everything you need for a seamless shoot. Our fully equipped studio ensures high-quality production every time. Enjoy a comfortable, air-conditioned environment with professional-grade gear and expert support. Contact us now or visit our Abuja location to reserve your spot.
Welcome back from the break. This is still Trendz with LJ, and we have in the studio the president of LJ, Barrister Samuel Meme. You're very much welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you.
And then we also have Mr. John Nkamiang, a communications and media specialist. Welcome to Trendz, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so let's get right into the first story for today. The Academic Staff Union of University has commenced a 2 weeks warning strike today after the ultimatum issued to the federal government elapsed on Sunday. The announcement was made by the national president of the union, Professor Chris Biwuna, at a press briefing at the University of Abuja on Sunday. During the meeting, the government presented a proposal to ASU, which was rejected by its leadership because the new offer did not meet the demands presented by the union. Now, Mr. President, over to you. Why do you think this ASU federal government dispute has remained unsolved despite several meetings and negotiations?
Well, it will be difficult for us to have ASU continue being in class without coming or resorting to strike, because they must continue to press home their demands. It boils down to the issue of welfare and how the country treats their citizens, because then from time to time the cost of living will continue to rise up. The government is unable to come up with policies that can possibly take care of the workers, the teachers in this case. And from time to time there will be need for agitation, which you continue to see until we continue to have a stable economy to reasonable extent. It will be difficult for us to have this issue coming up. This is my opinion, because then ASU will continue to ask for and protect their members, the workers. The government have a responsibility to meet up with the demands, because they are unable to implement the right policies that will favor Nigerians. They will keep increasing. They will keep asking for demands. Government would increase the salaries. On the other hand, they will increase cost of items, and keep going on and on. Maybe at the end of the day, they will reach out to a compromise on how they can resolve this issue for a short time again, and be in not distant time they will come up with another agitation. It's quite unfortunate anyway.
Okay.
I don't really wish to talk about this issue of ASU, because it's a recurrent issue from time to time.
Mr. John, how do you think both the federal government and ASU can prioritize students' education mostly, as opposed to politics and bureaucracy?
Oh, well, there are varied options open to both the federal government and ASU. It starts with the subject of transparency on the part of government, putting their money where their mouth is. Because the first question you ask is, how much has the government budgeted for education in the first place? When you look at budgetary allocation for education, that will tell you or naturally give you an insight into the mindset of the government when it comes to the subject of education. So any government that naturally doesn't prioritize education, we will have the recurrent decimal of strike actions, as we've seen in the case of ASU. This happens to be the 18th strike action since 1999. So it tells you how occurrent this has been. So until the government begins to show that it prioritizes the educational sector and invests deliberately and intentionally, we will continue to see this strike. Then on the part of ASU, if we look at historically from 1999, ASU demands has not really changed. They've been demanding basically the same thing over and over and over again. But some school of thought would suggest that we are gradually moving away from the era of unionism. Now, unionism globally, you hardly hear of unions outside the shores of Nigeria and Africa calling on strike actions. Rather, they have made themselves a some kind of an opposition force. They come with superior argument to the table. So every time government brings a policy that directly or indirectly affects their sector, they analyze it, they break it down and say, okay, look, good intentions, no doubt. But on the flip side, these are the disadvantages, the shortfalls of your policy. And so we suggest A, B, C. So it's more or less not an argument, but an issue of coming from a superior standpoint. And government will be forced to look at the options that have been given and then have that tete-a-tete or jaw, as the case may be, rather than see continuous strike action. Because I think that if in between 1999 and now, they have had 18 strike actions, and yet government has not changed. It means they need to change their approach. It means strike actions are not yielding the kind of results they expect. And of course, we all know that saying that only an insane person would do the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's move on to the next story. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has granted a presidential pardon to Miriam Sanda, who was convicted and sentenced to death in 2020 for killing her husband, Biliaminu Bello, the son of a former PDP chairman. Sanda, who had been serving her sentence at the Suleja Correctional Center, was among several inmates granted clemency under the Prerogative of Mercy initiative. Now, this decision has sparked a wave of mixed reactions. While some describe it as an act of compassion and justice reform, others see it as undermining the fight against domestic violence and weakening trust in Nigeria's judicial system. I'll start with you, Barrister Samuel Meme. What message does this presidential pardon say about our justice and accountability system?
The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, gave the power to the president to grant pardon, state pardon, to the governors as well. But in exercising such power, the president must put certain things into consideration, including the feelings and the concept of justice and how the rational mind of the people. And among other things, if you as a president, and I believe from what we saw, the list of people that were granted pardon, and when you look at the list, you would definitely, align to agree that some of these persons definitely must have also, not properly advised. The right advice was not given to Mr. President in terms of some of this list of people who were involved in kidnapping and were convicted for kidnapping, people who were convicted for murder, people who were convicted for fraud and drugs and the rest of them, because we saw some of the list of these persons. In as much as the Constitution did not, restrict Mr. President from certain class of conviction that he should, grant such kind of only. But at the same time, you must also consider the justice system, because when you grant such kind of high-profile persons, what kind of message are you sending to the law enforcement agencies? What kind of message are you sending to the judiciary? But oftentimes, we will criticize the judiciary for not living up to expectation, and when they successfully convict certain persons who obviously had committed crime, and you get this kind of response, it sends a very bad signal to so many institutions who are involved in prosecution, investigation, and sometimes it therefore means that anybody can do anything and go scot-free in the country. So what I'm trying to say invariably is that in considering cases for pardon, and like what Mr. President has exercised his power, I believe, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that Mr. President did not put certain things into consideration, because if for this lady you pointed out who killed her husband clearly and was murdered her husband, so now you've freed her. What are you trying to say? What about the family of the disease? So you're not going to cause more chaos in the system? Because there are some persons, maybe it depends on the nature of the crime. The security agencies risk their lives, risk everything, their freedom to investigate certain crime. And after securing conviction, even the judicial officers, some of them also take out, risk their life and everything to prosecute certain offenses and crime, depending on the nature of the offender, right? And when you successfully secure conviction, and one day you discover that such a person has been set free, you are discouraging this system of justice. That is my opinion. But what I can say is that the president have the right to do what he did, but in putting that, he must also consider the feelings and the thoughts of an average right-thinking Nigerian.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Mr. John, have anything to add to that?
I share the opinions of Barrister Samuel, but I think there are several lessons to learn from this. We must emphasize first that it is the prerogative of the president, and this is a prerogative that has been empowered by the Constitution. But I think, Mr. President, and for future presidents, there is a need to have some consulting team made up of both legal and maybe religious leaders to be able. So when this list, before he puts pen to paper, he runs the list through this group of individuals and say, look, I would like to grant these people pardon. These are the crimes they committed. This was the conviction as given by the court of law. And these are the reasons I feel that they should be pardoned. And then these group of individuals, based on both professional and religious or moral competence, will be able to say, oh, look, it's good, Mr. President, but you must look at the precedents that some of these people you intend to give pardon would set. In the case of Sanda, for instance, you're talking domestic violence, you're talking, and these are things that socio-culturally are not acceptable in this part of the world, and particularly in Nigeria. So what paradigm are we trying to shift? What lessons are we sending? So, Mr. President, in good faith, I want to believe that he's trying to pass a message that, look, God forgives everyone. So if we have the chance to forgive our fellow human beings, let's do it with the hope that they have learned from their mistakes in the past.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's another angle. Because there is no crime, there is no offense that God cannot forgive.
Exactly.
So it simply means that Mr. President, who is the father of the country and the nation, he may have considered, we don't know the process they have taken, because definitely before such pardons are granted, there must also be some level of communications between the committee and the presidency. I mean, the presidency and the inmates themselves, probably to put all of this into perspective. So it's possible that the president must have looked at all of these things and said, okay, I think I have to forgive
to
them
play
since
God.
I have the power to do so.
Okay. Thank you. So the next story. Nigerian Army personnel commit suicide after killing wife inside Wawa Military Barracks. A tragic incident occurred on Saturday at the Wawa Military Cantonment, New Busa, Kainji, Niger State, where a soldier, Lance Corporal Femi Akinleye, allegedly shot his wife, Blessing, before taking his own life. According to reports, the incident occurred around 11:30 a.m. while Akinleye was on barracks duty under the 22 Armored Brigade. The Nigerian Army has begun a full investigation into the case, which has once again raised questions about mental health, domestic tension, and welfare within the armed forces. Mr. John, let me start with you. What does this tragedy reveal about the emotional instability amongst Nigeria's military personnel?
I think it first starts with the institution. It shows that the institution has failed in providing adequate mental health and medical support for its rank and file. In most developed military institutions across the world, when their military men or servicemen are exposed to the kind of environment in which we currently operate, they are stretched at all fronts. They are fighting terrorists, they are fighting banditry, they are fighting kidnappers, they are fighting secessionists, and they are constantly in the theater of war. Yeah. So to say, we as a country, we have subtly tried to run away from the fact that we are at war. Once your security architecture is being stretched and tested, it is a situation of war. And then the mental capability and mental stability of your servicemen becomes a priority. The question would be, after these men are exposed to this hazardous environment, what kind of debriefing do they go through? What type of mental, psychological evaluation do they go through? Because this is what we see in the civilized climate. America, which most of us are quick to refer to, we've seen the American servicemen exposed to during the Iraq War, the Afghan War, and one of the major components of rehabilitating their men and servicewomen is they go through what they call psychological evaluation, and as a form of debriefing to ensure that they are able to bring them out of the mindset of the theater of war and bring them back to normalcy and be able to embrace civilian life again. This is one out of many, especially this year. We've had several servicemen commit suicide. Yes. And not just commit suicide, but even kill a loved one or family member. So that in itself suggests that there's something wrong. Are they going through what is known as a PSTD, post-traumatic stress? Yes. And if they are, what is the Nigerian Army, what is the Nigerian Armed Forces doing to ensure that they curb that phenomenon to the barest minimum? So there's a whole lot that goes into it. We've seen servicemen post videos online suggesting their welfare is below par. They even weaponry that they need to combat these vices are substandard, almost non-available. Yeah. I mean, how do you expect that men and women who've been trained to defend the sovereignty and integrity of Nigeria see bandits and they run away? They see terrorists and they leave their installations. The videos are there. The military can deny as much as they want, but these things are in the public space. So it tells you that there is a lacuna somewhere within the military architecture, not providing the right mental and psychological health care for the men and women who serve this country in different parameters and different levels.
Okay, thank you very much. And to our final story, the FCT Police Command has arrested 4 suspects involved in a one-chance robbery and attempted kidnapping. They also rescued 2 victims in the process. According to police reports, the incident occurred on October 8, 2025 at about 10:09 p.m. when a distressed victim called the Life Camp police station reporting that she had been abducted by suspected criminals who demanded a 1 million naira ransom. Through a combination of digital and tactical intelligence, officers from the Life Camp Division tracked and intercepted the suspect at Dape village around 4:30 on October 9. The 2 victims rescued during the operation, although one sustained injuries. Now, Mr. President, this question is for you. What does this case tell us about the persistent threat of one-chance robbery in Abuja?
It's becoming like on a daily basis for us in FCT, and not just about the FCT, all over the country. All over the country, you see cases of one chance, and sometimes it is very difficult to identify them because you can't police the country entirely. It will be difficult. And what I can only say is the security agents must continue to do the best they can to get these guys as much as possible. But on the part of the government, we know that when in a system, in a country where everyone is angry, I say this because that is not the basis for crime, but in most cases can also encourage crime. A system, a country where there is lack of social amenities, and who are you going to blame when you find yourself in this kind of situation? You have to blame the government, the officials, because they have the constitutional responsibility and mandate to provide life, social amenities, provide employment, provide the enabling environment for things to thrive. When they are failing, then you have the people who are also supposed to respond by be engaging, by become active citizens, so that they can be part of a system change. But what you see in the case of Nigeria is that many people who are supposed to speak up are not speaking up, rather, they're now resorting to crime. When you resort into crime, you end up hurting your fellow citizen. You end up kidnapping your fellow citizens, demanding for ransom, killing, ritual activities, armed robbery, and all vices. So it's quite a very dicey situation. Nigeria, we really need to get ourselves out of this situation because the system is not working at all. And no matter how much you deploy the security to suppress, the security have a responsibility to suppress the people, to suppress crime, and to make sure that they arrest offenders. But the government also have a huge responsibility. It is not just for the minister of the FCT or the president or just this way. I'm also calling on the security to continue to watch out and protect the people. Those who have the responsibility to make life easy for the people should, as a matter of fact, begin to make life easy for the people. Because when life is made easy for the people, it takes away crime in a way. Many of our communities and our villages, for instance, have already been overrun by bandits. All right? Now, what you see is that many people who naturally want to do work or whatever cannot find themselves doing the city in the community will have to come down to the city area, like we always converse here. So it makes the city to be overburdened with so many things. And how many police do you have in a city such as FCT to protect the people? You can hardly see police checkpoints. And when you see one, they are either carrying out a different activities entirely rather than checking the activities of the people that are moving. All right? It can be, such checkpoint can as well be turned into oppressing checkpoints or trying to do other things that are not in any way related to security. So, however you look at it, I must commend the police for being able to respond very promptly and arresting these culprits. And we must continue to encourage our security operatives, provide information where necessary. Then, like I said earlier, the government, officials of the government also have responsibility to provide adequate facilities, job opportunities for the citizens, because the youths of this country not being able to do what they are supposed to do and not being able to match up. And out of frustration, many of them are going into crime. But the law is a law. The law is not irrespective of anybody. So once you commit crime, the law must cut up with you. So if you are angry as a citizen, you are not so comfortable with the system, get yourself involved. Involve in leadership change so that we will know where you really belong to, rather than oppressing Nigerians that are already being oppressed.
And that's where we wrap it up with today's edition of Trends with LJ. Thank you to our panelists for being a part of the program today. Thank you very much, our viewers, as well. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms at LJ Nigeria. Thank you for being a part of the program. Once more, my name is Omoyeni Ojeifo.